Daniel and Christie, thanks for joining me.
No problem.
You've been loving following your journey on Instagram, and so I just couldn't help but send you a DM and invite you to be interviewed here on Home to KZN. Tell our audience how you guys came together. I believe you're a couple in real life, and then you've come together and brought your different varied skill sets together as creatives, as entrepreneurs, as professionals to create the Toolip brand.
Yeah, so we started dating, and I started surfing not too long ago. I ended up working as a content creator in a lot of surf factories, and Christy is a competitive surfer. And because of my content journey, I've always wanted a brand underneath it with a product. I've always wanted it to mean something and be something fun and something I understood. And because Christy has been a shaper, I took the idea to her, and we figured we should make surfboards because it's something we both love and do. And she had the knowledge on how to do it. So that's where it all started.
Okay. So Toolip as a brand is at the moment mostly surf products, mostly surfboards. And Christy, tell us a little bit about your journey coming into shaping and when Daniel brought this idea and how you put your side of creativity and your experience into this brand.
I started my shaping experience under a little bit of guidance from a shaper that's very well known, Baron Stander, and it happened during COVID time, and I needed to figure out what to do with my time. So I would go into the shaping bay with him and just learn the ropes and everything, and then I started doing my own board, and I had a few of the younger girls in the Durban area riding my boards, which was amazing to see. And I just struggled to find the time to market it enough and to try and grow the brand. And that's when Dan pitched the idea to me for us to join together, because we both have a lot of passion for surfing and the ocean. So it worked well together.
Love it. And I believe from the contents I've watched, Christy, you are the only female shaper in South Africa. Tell us more about what is shaping. It's creating a surfboard for those who don't know the surfing lingo.
Yeah. There's a designing process that takes place on a program on the laptop. So that's the start of it, to design it. And then it gets sent in to get cut on a CNC machine. And then I'll go into the shaping bay and then shape it up to be a rideable surfboard and not just a block of foam. And yeah, I just put in some time and effort and some love into the board and make sure that customers are getting what they want out of it. And that was the biggest thing for me. That's why I started shaping, because I could never really go to a shaper and explain what I want and get what I wanted. So to create my own surfboards and make surfboards for others and really take into consideration what they wanted out of a surfboard.
And adding your elements of creativity and specificity. But so many entrepreneurs, right? They want something and they're not seeing a product out in the market or seeing a problem, and then they create a solution. That's amazing. Tell us a little bit more about the boards that you create and the journey of creating Toolip.
So the idea was to take boards that are either too expensive to buy in South Africa or haven't even made it here. So in the surfing industry, there's a lot of specifics to the kinds of waves you have. But unfortunately, a lot of the high-end shapers and brands overseas, they don't bring their boards here because our taxes are too high. So South Africans can't afford a lot of different models. So we figured we would like to look at what they're doing internationally already and try to develop in the same way but for Durban, for South Africa. A lot of what we notice, especially in working in factories, is a lot of the shapers will take an idea and they'll change it so much that it doesn't even really make sense anymore. So we figured, how can we look at designs, put our own touches onto it, but that still makes sense, that you can still have a almost international board in South Africa. So that was the idea. And so far with the boards we have made, we found a way to make the boards that actually work, which was probably the best thing. When we made our first one, we weren't actually sure. And when we started riding them, we were like, oh, maybe we can actually do this. These boards are actually going really well. And yeah, so I've been doing the design aspect and bringing the marketing side and the creative side into it. I've been working on the visual side of things. And then obviously with Christy's experience, she's been doing the actual building and the physical making the board be a board.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So it sounds like quite a journey to even get the boards as you wanted them to be. But now you've got them. So how long has this Toolip brand and these boards, like how long has that journey been? It sounds like you're fairly new entrepreneurs, but also that you've already had people in the market take on your boards. So tell us a little bit about how long you've been in business and how you've seen these boards impact like the local Durban female surfers and otherwise.
So Toolip brand itself it's not very old at all. We've only made maybe 3 boards now, one of which was already an order going to Australia. We're sending that off as soon as we get it back from the glassing house. That's super exciting. That's already
international clients.
The brand has always existed under a different name because since I started the creator journey, I've always wanted the brand. And then we just decided to simplify it and niche it onto the surfboards. As Toolip brand, it's not very old at all, but it has already started getting some sort of traction. People are talking about it. People are interested. And I think in the female market, it's going to be a beautiful transition. Having the first female shaper in the country in a very male-dominant sport is already going to open doors to developing girls in surf instead of just developing surf. That's where the exciting part comes in. We also want the boards to be for the everyday, I want to have fun surfer, not the serious solo artist that just wants to take surfing his own way by himself.
Beautiful. And then you were telling me, Christy, about the conservation that you have as a core at the heart of your brand. And so tell us a little bit about how you're doing that.
With background working in Kruger and wildlife, we thought that it would be quite nice to give back to conservation and to try and support a little bit on that side. We will be giving a percentage of our boards that we make back to conservation projects, one of which we're looking at is the conservation of pangolins. And then we're going to look at a few others, animals and conservation projects we'd like to give back to.
Yeah. So it also comes from surfing has always, in my mind, like I'm very new to the sport. Christy's been doing it her whole life. I always saw it as this very free-loving, nature-loving kind of sport. Everyone who did it was super open and happy and cared. And then I learned about the actual environmental impact that the building process has of surfboard. And I realized that there's quite a big disconnect between the surfing industry and surfing. And because of that, we figured, why not give back? And to be 100% honest, just a little look into the surf industry, a markup on a surfboard is quite considerable. So we are essentially not looking at becoming rich from the project. We want to develop and help as much as possible. So because the markup is as big as it is, we have the ability to actually make an impact. So instead of making the boards cheaper and maybe losing the value of the brand in doing that, we can make sure that there is a markup and the money comes to us, but then show that we want to put it somewhere where it can create an impact and help.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the idea behind it.
That I'm quite passionate about social entrepreneurship, which is just companies who are trying to optimize not just for profit, but for purpose and giving back. And so I'm hearing twofold: conservation and a percentage to conservation, but also building women in surf and creating more accessibility also to certain products that you guys are creating. So it's almost threefold that you guys are not just making another product, you're trying to make it more accessible, you're trying to build women in sport, and you're giving back. So I'm really celebrating what you guys are doing. I think I even saw something in one of your videos about some kind of process trying to minimize wastage or like alcohol.
How that came about is my cousin came to visit from Australia and gifted Christy a pack of tissue paper. And I don't think when people give those gifts, they expect excitement, but when we realized that it was tissue paper and that you could actually do something with it, we figured we can use this as a way to show that there are ways to minimize waste when it comes to the surfing industry. And even though that was a very small example of it, we managed to take something that would get used once and thrown away and put it in something that has a longer term of use now. Christy managed to figure out how to get the tissue paper into the board with the help of the factory we're working with, ELS. And she has a really cool looking board now.
Hotel was to receive that gift. And it was one of my favorite animals.
Is it tissue paper specifically, or are there other types of products that can be like, how did you make that work? And if you were to get companies or brands or people who would want to give you stuff to upcycle boards or to, I don't know, if I had tissue paper and I'm like, will you make a board for me? Is that actually feasible? And how does that work to incorporate, you know, previously seen waste products into a new product, an upcycled product?
So, there's a few products that can be put into surfboards. Tissue paper is probably the most common because you also print decals on it. And decals is what your brand name gets printed on and then put into the surfboard so you can get exposure for your brand name. But also you can put fabric into a surfboard. So an example would be a sarong, thin fabric of sarong material. If you like a pattern, you could also put that in. I would say offcuts of sarongs or offcuts of fabric that can be put into a surfboard. And you can print on rice paper and put that in. Yeah, there are a few, but those are pretty much the two that I know of.
Yeah, I think it goes to the point of, do you want it to be a functioning surfboard or not? I mean, you can do a little bit less if you want to ride it, but I don't think there's too many limitations if you wanted to just make an art piece.
As long as it reacts well with the resin, which is the material that we glass the boards. Yeah, it's pretty much endless, which is quite exciting.
It sounds amazing. I'm not even in surfing, and I'm like, it would be so cool to come and watch that process of putting materials in and the shaping. I just love your videos, so I hope you keep creating more content. It's really a fascinating, like, peek in a world I don't know much about, and I'm sure many other people had dreams. I've had dreams of learning to surf or wanting to surf, but for whatever different reason, tried once and it didn't work out. So I just love the insight you're giving into the unique space with the unique angles and your guys' clear passion for what you're doing. Thanks again for joining me here today. So one of the reasons I started the Entrepreneur Interview Series is to share with other people. I think when we do entrepreneurship, it can often be really lonely, or we're figuring out things on our own. And I want to be able to publicly share what some of the struggles that you guys have encountered in starting this business and or starting the entrepreneurial journey, because other people can also learn from that. Also, I'd love to hear, how have you overcome some of those struggles, and maybe even which struggles are you currently facing that you haven't yet solved? Because creating more dialogue publicly about that can be really educational for anyone listening, or people who are wanting to learn more. If you don't mind speaking to some of the struggles you've faced and you've overcome, and maybe some you're still looking to overcome.
Probably one of the biggest when starting out is having too many ideas. We often sitting and just, I want to do this, how can I make it work? Or Christy like, I want to do this, how do we make it work? So the struggle is having too many ideas, because it causes a feeling of, I can't do this. Because you never actually get to the point of doing it, you're just thinking about too many things. So it was definitely important. I think being a couple as well is sitting down and being like, no, let's focus on this. We started now, let's make that work. So whenever one of us go off on our tangent, it's okay, let's focus on it, get it going, build this properly. I definitely think that in many ways is a struggle, especially because we want it to mean something. So a lot of Christy's ideas are, how do we impact young girls? A lot of mine is, how do we impact conservation even more? And then you go on this huge thought process that takes away all your time from the actual building of your brand. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest ones I've faced personally.
Yeah, always going to get some struggles, but what nice is that we do have each other to bounce ideas off of. So if we are struggling with something, both of us have different perspectives on it. So that's quite a nice thing too.
And we haven't quite hit the size of the business where the personal relationship and the business relationship becomes a factor. I'm sure at some point that is something that starts becoming a struggle, or is something you at least need to work on. But at these early stages, I'd say we're ready for it, but we haven't gotten to that point of business yet where that is a big talking. So a young couple who wants to start a business is watching. It's understand that those struggles will happen, but don't let that affect the idea of making it happen now. Because that could stop a lot of people. We have something great. There's always the, what if something happens in the relationship and now we've got investment in a business? Where does that take us? And unfortunately, yes, you have to be sure, but you can't let that stop you from actually trying to build something. I guess as we progress, there's going to be more and more things that come up, but yeah, probably some of the main ones.
You're speaking to something of not just the relational aspect, but something what I'm learning and what I think you're speaking to as well. No matter what problem or struggle you overcome and solve, there's always another one and one you never know that's in the future, because even as a business grows, I think a lot of people just think, oh, I want more sales or I want more investment. But with investment comes different things. With more growth comes different challenges. With expansion can come a lot more pressure. It's almost like this journey of you solve one, you overcome one, and then there's another one. Yeah, what would you call that? Would you consider that something like perseverance or grit? What is that quality that you would say an entrepreneur needs to develop, that you don't even know what challenges you are going to face in the future, but you know that you'll handle it when you come across it?
I would say faith in yourself and in what you have.
I'm just trusting the process. Like they say, everything happens for a reason, and just trusting that you are capable of doing what you want to achieve. You've just got to get out there and do it. And not being afraid of the risks and the challenges along the way.
And maybe being emotional with the face of business is probably not the greatest idea. If we have a business issue and our personal emotion gets in the way, then obviously business decisions are going to be a little bit impacted. So being able to, from the beginning, put the ground rules in on how you make business versus personal work is extremely important, because it's going to be hard work and it will add pressure. You're not going to get away from it. There's already so much pressure from just being in a relationship that as soon as stress from both sides starts creeping in, you need to understand, am I talking to business, Christy, or am I talking to my girlfriend? That's where emotions need to be kept in check. And which is all like personal stuff you really need to work hard on. But it's important things, I think, to understand before you jump into it straight away.
Very good advice for people who are considering any kind of collaboration. So do you have a couple of other tips for aspiring entrepreneurs? I've heard keep it simple. I've heard understand where emotions are maybe impacting the business. What other tips would you have for aspiring creative? What I'm really seeing is this creative, social give back, social venture in some way, social entrepreneurship. But for me, when I'm hearing you speak, I really hear that at the core of your purpose is not just profit. It's really so much more. So I see you with that lens. So what other tips would you share for people wanting to start this journey?
A important one, and it might be a little bit contradictory, but I have thought that making money to fuel your passion is a lot better than trying to make money with your passion. And it's an interesting one because my passion was being creative and taking photos and videography. But since I've turned it into a business, I don't want to necessarily be doing that anymore. Like I see it as a business, and if I don't have to be behind a camera, I'm not. So I think with this project, I've looked at it as like the passion is to help, the business is surfing. So like I think a lot of people want to enjoy their lives to the point where they think their passion will always be their passion if it becomes their everyday income. Where from personal experience, I've almost destroyed the passion because I do it every day now. I think people, as entrepreneurs, find a business to build outside of the things you're really passionate about. And if you are going to use one of your passions, make sure there's others that you can fall on as more of your hobby to get your mind off of everything that's going on. Because passion is always like the thing we fall on when we're stressed. If you can't make it from anymore. So yeah, that's probably a big one that I would tell people.
I like that very, in some ways, contrarian view. Sorry, I'll come to you, Christy. This contrarian view, because so many people say, oh, do what you love and you never work a day in your life. But I think there can be truth to that. But I like this alternative, yes, the advice that you're giving. Yeah, please go ahead, Christy, tell your answer to that question.
remembering why you started is quite a big factor. Because with Dan being in the Kruger and the wildlife side of things, and I've always been an ocean lover at heart and involved with marine animals, and I've done a lot of free diving. So we both have passion to conserve the nature that we are in every day. And I think if we just keep remembering why, at the end of the day, we want to help conservation, we want to keep the ocean that we surf in every day alive and thriving. If we can just keep remembering why we started this project in the first place, that'll help a lot with continuing the business and keeping everything aligned and in check.
Beautiful. Love that. I just feel a spontaneous question coming on, Christy. Like, what would the vision for you be, both in your business with the conservation? What's the big vision? You're here and you're at the beginning, but if you were to look some years ahead, what is the vision both with conservation, but also what is the vision you would love to see happen in South Africa with surfing and for women? I heard that's also very particularly close to your heart. What is that kind of ultimate vision that if you could be a part of creating that you would love to see happen here in South Africa?
I know I'm not the only one who thinks this, but currently in surfing, specifically in South Africa and around the world generally, male and female are not equal. We're not on equal standards in terms of the amount of males that are allowed to be entered into a contest against the amount of females. There's always, I'd say, 10 to 20 more males surfing in a competition than there are females. Another big factor is the prize money. Male always gets double what the woman gets in terms of prize money. So just getting onto equal standards in the surfing would be a huge factor. Yeah, I know there's been so many talks about it with passionate women overseas, and we're starting to put our foot down and we actually saying that this is not okay, it's not fair. And there has been movement with it. So I think if it could just filter down into South Africa, we'll start seeing some big moves soon.
What do you think needs to change? Is it the sponsors that are involved? Is it the organizations that are putting these limits in place? So what do you see needs to change, and how do you think your brand would even become a part of that change?
I've previously, in history with surfing, it's always been males and men, and they started surfing. But recently, in the last few years, women have really stepped up, and there are a lot more women in the lineup, just in general in Durban. And I know Cape Town as well, a lot more kids coming into it, a lot more female youngsters coming into it that are already pushing the limits of surfing. And I think that organizations just need to realize that it is a growing sport with females, and it's going to be big with females. They just need to open their eyes a little bit and see that there is opportunity with a woman coming through and how strong it is coming through, instead of just closing us off because that's what it was in the past. Things change. They just need to realize change. And we need to change with the times and not hold everyone back. So I think that could be a big factor with this.
South Africa is a little bit behind when it comes to marketing. And when you work in marketing, you see it. And if we could use the brand to speed up the process in surfing, to put it in perspective, in South Africa, shortboarding is huge. That's where everyone's attention is. But on the marketing side of things, international, where all the money exists, they've already moved on to longboarding. It's more inclusive to every level of surfing. So their marketing exists in longboarding. So they can build the sport. If we can use the brand to get South Africa's marketing idea to move forward a little bit quicker, then that would not only open doors for more people. For example, why only use guys to market surfing because of power surfing when there is a huge market in female surfing? And I think with more available money, you can put more into making it become a bit more equal, into developing it more. And I do think that in the South Africa we live today, that would be the easiest way to do it, considering our governments aren't necessarily big into sponsoring sports unless you're in the top three: cricket, rugby, soccer. So when it comes to extreme sport, having a brand that can privately create fund and awareness, then you can develop more people, you can get more people overseas and slowly market surfing in a way that it is a bit more inclusive. You take away the feeling of I can't do this because of who else is in the water. And yeah, it just lies in how you portray the message. And you take away school marketing of a girl's got a pretty body, that's why people are going to buy the brand, instead of it being girls can surf, this is what girls will buy on the brand. Guys can surf, that's what guys are going to buy on the brand. And it's not a old school way of marketing where you're looking looks and girls and ability and guys, when internationally they're showing that there's a lot of potential in marketing in a different, more inclusive way.
Love it. Love that. Very cool. You're definitely a power couple in that way with the marketing and the Christy, your sports and you know, your ability to make these boards. So I'm really looking forward to watching your journey and see how you grow. Do you have a roadmap for what you want to be doing over the next year with regards to developing these boards and getting them more out to market and showcasing women through marketing in the sport?
I think my roadmap might be a bit, I don't know, ego-fueled, but my roadmap is to just be the best marketed surfboard in the country. Everyone tries to market, but I just want to bring a much more creative and fun way to the way we make content. That's what I'm excited for, and that's my idea, is to take the extra step and the extra mile in how we show it off. I don't necessarily feel we need professionals writing them. I don't feel we need like crazy surf-centric ideas. I want to almost completely change the narrative when it comes to the surf industry and just make it something fun again. When I started surfing, not even 2 years ago, it's a very scary thing to start doing because of the attitude in the water, because of how the industry actually is behind the scenes. If we can create content that breaks that stigma, that's the roadmap I want to head towards. And that's what I'm excited for.
I love that. And you, Christy?
Just trying to portray that if you are a woman in any industry, you are capable to do something. So just get your hands a little dirty and show the world that you are capable of doing what everybody else is capable of doing. If people see another female doing it, it'll give them that extra little push for them to be able to take the next step in their journey and to just be comfortable and show everybody else what they are capable of doing.
It's important because already one of the issues we face is a lot of surfers in Durban won't buy a board because they know it's shaped by female. So there's already an existing stigma that we need to break.
Wow.
We have professionals that work in the glassing and help us with design. So just trying to break that idea. And that's where it's cool that we're working together, because we have the ability to just be like, why? Everyone's got a brain. Everyone can think of how a surfboard needs to work. And it's funny because Christy could probably surf circles around the people that think that way.
I love that. And in competitions, are you allowed to ride your boards? Are you able to get awareness for your products in some of the competitions you're riding?
Yeah, so the first time I rode my own board in a big competition was when I surfed internationally for South Africa. So yeah, trying to just get it out there. And it's nice to know that people are aware of it. So the commentators, when they're commentating at the contest, probably, if not the first, the second thing that comes up when I'm in the water and up and surfing is that they're mentioning that I'm riding my own board shaped by myself. So yeah, it's very cool to see.
So cool. Like cool level to the max, in my opinion, hearing that. I really wish you well. And I'm very curious to see. It sounds like it's very possible that maybe even there's an international market for you in places like Australia and others where that might really help the growth of your brand. I'll have to have you on in a year or so again and hear the updates of business growth and where you guys are going. But I'm going to follow with much curiosity. What advice do you give to anyone listening who wants to start surfing?
If someone is keen to try and learn how to surf, the biggest factor is that there's a big wild ocean out there and everyone's afraid of it. And it's the waves, and they don't understand very well. That was the biggest thing that my dad tried to teach me first and foremost before I even started going off and surfing, was learning about the ocean. So even if you do have your own surfboard, but you're not too aware of the ocean and the ins and outs of it, just go for a little swim. Get familiar with the water, the way the waves are, body surfing is a good one, and just seeing where the impact zone is and understanding where the safer zones are. And because when you have a board with you, it's a lot more dangerous and you're a lot more open to getting injured and stuff or hit with your board if you're not familiar with how the ocean is. So that would be the first thing. Don't just run head first into the ocean with a hard surfboard.
I just want to mention one. I think it's a great opportunity to mention one thing. For new surfers, before any of that stuff, understand that surfing it's a very much up to nature sport. We don't always get the ability to surf. And respect for the people around you and the environment that you're in is extremely important. In a lot of sports, there is ethics and etiquette, and learning that first will almost make you a better surfer quicker because more people will accept you faster in the water. So you'll be able to create friendships where people want to see you succeed instead of people wanting to get you out the water. So first and foremost, I think is learn how a lineup, how being in the water as a surfer works, and go in with a smile and respect, and then people will automatically want to gravitate towards you and then help. All the people learning to surf that don't have that will take longer because people almost won't want you to be there. Almost sabotage that person to make sure that they give up on surfing. Where if you come in with the respect, everyone's going to want to try to help you and get you on your feet. Just maybe hire a coach, especially one that is willing to teach you first.
I'm sure there's people that just throw themselves in the ocean and they don't even know. They don't even know that their etiquette will line up. So I hope to see some content from you guys about that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ignorance. Just people don't know. And I think what you're saying is pointing to something interesting. Let's ask the final question. What does courage mean for you as an entrepreneur? How would you define courage, and how do you use courage in your day-to-day life as an entrepreneur?
To me, courage as an entrepreneur comes down to sticking to your value, even if it means your outcome is not desirable. In this industry, a lot of people are going to try to ask for a cheaper price or say you're young and you don't know enough, or whatever the case might be. You need to set your value and stick to it and not let anyone tell you that you're not valuable. Especially being young, most people in the industry, in any business, can be a lot older. And just for example, I grew up in a very conservative household. If a person is older than you, you do what that person said. It's all about respect in an age difference. But being in business now, I realize that can't always be the case. So I find my scariest moments in running business is when I have to deal with either clients or other business people that are older or are more experienced. It's very scary to stick to your own value and have the assertiveness to understand that your value is important and that you need to hold on to it and shouldn't let other people degrade that.
Wise words.
Courage for me is realize that you need to take the next step, even if you're scared to. Just to understand that you'll never find out what the outcome would be if you don't take the next step. And just realize that if barriers or boundaries come along, then you'll face them head on. But you'll never know unless you try, as they say.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if your life experience with surfing and always facing the unknown, the uncertain nature, has in many ways set you up very well for entrepreneurship and what you just said. You just take each wave as they come.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm really excited to see and watch your brand grow over the coming months and years. Is there anything else you guys want to say in closing? Or?
Wild surfboards.
If you guys are wanting to try and learn to surf, just send me a message. I'd be happy to help you guys out. It's an amazing experience.
Our surfboards are open to people to try. We're not keeping them locked away. If anyone wants to give them a try, surf them, just send a DM. You can take it for the day. We'll all go. Yeah, we'll surf them.
That's so cool. I'm going to have to, not that I can surf, but I think I might have to come out to Durban and meet you guys. Thank you, everyone that listened. Thank you for your time and have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much.